What's up, everybody? We are back again with some more Wayfinder. Today we're going to be specifically focusing on the sword and board or sword and shield weapons of the game. The reason we're going to have independent categories for each of the different weapon types is because they're going to vary in their playstyle greatly from one another. And I think that this is a much easier to digest content than me just overwhelming you with a big fat video that includes everything. So let's check the passive abilities first. So the Guardian weapon class offers a balanced playstyle with a mix of offense and defensive options. Sword attacks deal additional health damage, while shield attacks deal additional break damage. It's kind of a jack of all trades. Shields benefit from an improved block over executioner weapons. Blocking will convert all incoming damage to stamina meter damage instead of health damage. Timing an attack immediately after a successful block will perform a block counter, dealing a large amount of damage. And if the latent power meter is full, this will also bank a pip. Pip is going to end up being that little shield icon in the bottom right. So as we build up more and more of them, we essentially are going to end up dealing significantly more shatter damage, as you'll see in a moment. The other weapon passive, which is the latent power weapon mechanic. So blocking and hitting enemies with melee attacks will build up the latent power meter. When the meter is full, a block counter or shield slam attack, and in order to end up performing a shield slam attack, you have to hold heavy attack or do an air slam down attack, or as the final attack in the heavy attack combo, those will bank a pip next to the meter. You can store up to 3 levels in this way. Performing a weapon ability will consume all pips and power up the ability based on how many pips were used. So now let's briefly talk about the stat differences before we get to the passive ability of each of these independently. So you can see that Vanguard outright is going to end up being your standard. Radiant Dawn is just kind of outright stronger based on its, stats anyways, but not necessarily with the ability itself. So it's kind of a pick your poison type of thing. What type of situation are you going into? Why would you want to end up using this over this kind of thing? But you can see Grim Harvest, on the other hand, when compared to the Radiant Dawn, this is going to end up giving you higher crit rating and a lot more defense, but sacrifice offense, and then this is going to sacrifice defense for a lot more offense. The active ability on the Vanguard is the Power Bash, which performs a powerful shield bash that does massive impact damage and high guard break damage. Of course, the power is going to increase based on having more pip, but this thing is really good at shattering enemy shields. The Radiant Dawn has the Archon's Blade, which empowers the sword and shield with radiant energy, extending the damage and range of melee attacks, and empowers blocking to greatly reduce incoming stamina damage. The Grim Harvest has Bone Geyser, which plunges the sword into the ground to unleash an eruption of bone spikes in a radius around the Wayfinder, dealing damage and staggering even heavily armored enemies. Deals additional damage for each latent power pip consumed. And Tooth and Claw turns you into Captain America, because with the Shredder Toss, it'll launch the shield to tear through and bounce between enemies, dealing additional damage for each latent power pip consumed. Oh, one last thing. If you're curious how I got the sword and board to work on Silo or any of the other characters in the game, that's got to do with mastery. You're going to have to invest into the mastery tree so that you can use every weapon on every character.